Hello, welcome to this session of OpenMentor.net. In this session we are going to see XML. XML is Extensible Markup Language. This is a kind of HTML, probably it's a more evolved form of HTML. HTML is used for display of data or text or images. Whereas XML is not meant for display. If you use HTML, it will get displayed on the browser. Whereas if you use HTML, XML is used for to carry data or to store data. So XML is not something for display. Just a XML file need not display or will not display in a formatted fashion like what you do in HTML with colors, fonts, etc. Whereas from a HTML form or from a page, the data can be transferred to the backend and then back and forth in XML format, as well as it can be stored in XML format in the files on disk. So the basic difference between HTML and XML is for the display purpose it is HTML, to carry and store it is XML. And the other major difference is HTML has predefined tags. So you have header, body, and then meta, ahref, paragraph. So the tags or table, whatever you see, that the tags and attributes are predefined. This is in HTML. In XML, it's all user-defined tags. So there is nothing like predefined tags in XML. It's all user-defined. But the comments in HTML as well as XML, they are exactly the same. So you can use this and then you can use this particular notation for commenting within HTML as well as XML. Now, before going to the XML file itself, actually let us take I want to store some data of employee information. So the information that I want to store is employee ID, then employee name, then date of birth, then designation, and then salary. There are different ways of storing this data. The first one is, this is called delimited data. A typical CSV file or a tab or a TSV file, tab separated values or comma separated values. This can be used for representing this data. For example, employee ID 101, that is the first field, comma, John, next 10/10/1973, comma, designation is VP, salary is 40,000. So another record 102, comma, Julia, then 11/11/1984, general manager GM, and then 30,000. So you have each data element separated by a comma then being used. So one question may arrive, if some data, for example, we have address also. In this, if you have address also, if the address has the comma, what will you have? Right? Suppose I have 1 First Street. How do I interpret this comma? So people, they will use single quotes to define that this data is a separate data. So for each data will have single quote, double quotes. Again, should I have double quotes as part of my data? Again, it's up to you. So this comma separated values, or sometimes people use pipeline separated values also. In those cases, there may be ambiguity of the data versus the delimiter. And another problem is, this is based on position. So the first position is employee ID, second position is name, third position of data is this one. So if I want to change the positions, then I have to change my programs also, because somebody else would have programmed expecting the designation as the fourth data. If you change the designation as the last data, pushing this salary before, their program need to be changed. If they don't change, the programs will start giving errors. That's another problem. This is one form of delimited data. Second form of data is structured fixed size data. The same thing, I can say employee ID to have, let us say, 10 characters, then employee name 20 characters, date of birth 10 characters, designation 3 characters, salary 6 characters. So if I need to format this data, this is structured or say formatted structured fixed size data. In this one, let us have this one 1 2 3 4. Let me first put the column count. Look at this data. Now we have got the 60 characters in a sequence. As I said, the employee ID will take first 10 characters. So first 10 characters will be employee ID. Though employee ID has got only 3 characters, the rest of the characters will be reserved as spaces or empty. Then next 20 characters will be the name. So it will occupy that. From the 31st position onwards, the date of birth will occupy. The next 3 characters will be reserved for the designation. Rest of the characters will be reserved for the next 6 characters will be reserved for the salary. So this is called as formatted or structured data. In this one, whether I have a comma here or a pipeline here, it doesn't matter, but I have got lot of spaces unutilized. So it's a fixed or formatted a structured data. Again, the problem of this one is if we want to increase the size of it or decrease the size of it, or in between this VP and this I want to push another field, then there is a problem. So I have to change all my programs, because this is based on the start. This is called offset based field identification. That means offset number 1 is the employee ID, offset number 11 is the employee name, offset number 31 is date of birth, offset number 41 is your designation. So the moment you change even by 1 byte, 1 character, the programs which write the data, which read the data, which update the data, they all go for a task. So delimited data as well as the formatted structured fixed size data do have problems. It's not that they are bad. Many programs in mainframes are still working in this model. As long as you have got complete control on your programs, you are good. But the moment you want to make changes, the moment you make changes in the data, all associated programs must also be changed. This is a problem. This is first problem. Second problem is, if you are a particular company and many vendors or many suppliers are connecting to your application and each one is supplying the data in their own formats, again you are going to have problems. So the conversion of that data into this is going to have another issue. To overcome all these issues, what has come out in a beautiful fashion is XML. Irrespective of the position, irrespective of the size, you don't have to go for a comma or a pipeline. You don't have to go for 31st location or 45th location. You can go with tags and the value. This is based on tags and values. Pretty much like name value pairs are used in most of the places, tags and values are used in XML. So that is going to have a major impact on our XML data carriage. Let us go to the XML files. The same data structure I want to define. So in XML, you need to have something called root node. Let me define as employee data as my root node. XML must always have, pretty much like HTML, you need to have the starting tag and the end tag. Employee data is not something predefined in HTML. Whereas here in XML, it's all user defined, you can give any data. So this is called the root node. Within that, I want to have my own data. For example, let us have the name EMP ID/EMP/ID. So you have the data within tags. So you put the data in between. again have one more field like emp name /emp name. Between these two tags, put your data. Like this, let us put all the data within the tags. Have a look at here. We have got one node employee ID, its value. Another node employee name, its value. Date of birth, its value. Designation, its value. So the entire structure is given within a container node called employee data. And it has got a set of data appearing over here. Now this is just one record. This is a representation of one record. You may now ask, see, look at this. If I use this format, the number of bytes I am using is very less. Whereas if I am using here, the number of bytes I am using is more. Yes, XML will occupy more space than the original data itself. But what the freedom it gives is much more. The freedom that it gives is you are not location dependent on the data, you are not size dependent on the data. Previous day, in maybe 15 years ago, the disk space, they are all pretty costly. Now you have got a lot of disk space available. So the minimum laptop itself comes with 100 GB of hard disk. So space is not a constraint today. So you can have as much space as you want. So, but if it gives a freedom, if you alter data, you don't have to alter the programs, then that's a great boon that we are going to have. That is why XML is pretty much in place almost in the current days in most of the applications. Whether you go for web services, whether you go for SOAP, everything is work on the backbone of XML. Now, I have got one record defined. I want to have some more records defined. I can repeat this. But if you see here, employee data, it ends over here. Again it starts. In XML, you need to have something called a tree structure. You cannot have the same data repeating again and again unless it is part of a container. Okay. So if you want to have this employee data /employee data to repeat itself, all I need to do is employees. You have one more root node so that contains multiple nodes of employee data. Each employee data repeats and then that contains these nodes. So you should always have a tree structure. Employees contain employee data contains these 5 nodes. This is the root node, this is the intermediate node, these are all the leaf nodes. So it can have a tree structure. Now how do I know that my XML is a valid XML? Whether I have formatted is correct or not. Let us have a look at it. If you open it through a browser, you will come to know how it looks like. Let us do that. Look at here. I have opened that XML file in a browser. Whatever we have given as a comment, they are all appearing over here in a different color. Okay. Now the actual XML appears like a tree. You can expand and collapse. Employees node contains employee 2 instances of employee data. If you expand that, that contains these leaf nodes. So note the tags are given in some color, the value is given in some other color. Let me go and then purposefully introduce a problem and then see what happens. Now I go here. For some reason I delete this data. Okay, I delete this node. Now I try to load this F5. Now if I refresh this, it is giving error on line 41, column 17, opening and ending tags mismatch, salary line 0 and employee data, right? So when you are doing something wrong on the XML, you will not see the tree in the browser. That itself is the first level validation that your XML is wrongly formatted. So you need to go back to the line number 41, go back here and then say, give that. Now come back, refresh. Now it's all coming back. So you are able to expand, collapse, it appears correct. So this is the best way and the quickest and easiest way to see whether your XML is correctly formatted with proper opening tags and closing tags. So XML must definitely have closing tags. There is one more way. For here, what I'm going to do is, instead of /salary, just let me remove that and then just put slash and then still refresh. It's giving an issue. Now I go back, say salary. Okay, this is one way. Now sometimes what people will do is, just have a look at it. Now I go here. I have not given an end tag at the end of it. I have given salary over here, but I have not given /salary, but in the same place I have given slash, space, slash. Still it is able to display that data. So this is one way, but the better way is to always have tag and then the /end tag. It is a better way to ensure that your XML is correct. You can still use that tag and then space slash without giving this end one, but it is better to do this way. So this is called root node, this is intermediate node, these are all the leaf nodes. In HTML also you have attributes. Within the tag you can give attributes. In XML also you can give attributes. So what is the purpose of attribute? For example, how do I say that this date has been stored in MMDDYY format? Okay, if I want to do that way, to denote what format, I can say format equal to mm-dd/YYYY. So this is called the node or the tag. This is called the attribute of that particular node. Again, for the salary, what you can do is, I am just giving this date of birth. Then under the salary I can say currency equal to USD. So I am giving additional attributes. The additional attributes qualify the meaning of the particular node. So what is the use of this? If I go back and then refresh, what is the use of giving attributes? Again, as I said, XML is not for display purposes. XML is to carry this data to some other, from one program to another program. The other program can easily find out, okay, you receive something 40,000 as a unit, but what is the currency? They can go and then get the attribute of that particular node and then interpret, do some program logic. So it is for the program that receives this XML file and then to manipulate this particular data. So this is the basic use of XML tags or nodes and attributes. Now in this one we have given some characters, but I want to use something like salary is greater than 40,000. I want to give that greater than 40,000 or less than 40,000. And otherwise I want to give a joint role VP and something, VP and COO or COO and CEO. How do I give? If I want to give this CEO and CMO, he is a joint CEO and CMO. How do I do that? Refresh, it says error. When I give the ampersand sign, it gave error. So what I need to do is, instead of giving, because this ampersand sign, this is one of the inbuilt characters. So if you want to use ampersand sign as a part of this data itself, then you have to use ampersand AMP semicolon. This ampersand AMP semicolon it's a code word within XML to denote that this is the character ampersand. Same way, if I want to give the salary is greater than 40,000, I cannot use just this symbol because this will interpret it as a XML tag, that character. Instead, I have to use ampersand greater than semicolon. So greater than ampersand GT colon stands for the character greater than. Now let us display this. Now if you display this one, look here. It displays CEO and CMO. Now it displays that particular character. Otherwise, if you simply give this greater than sign, it will interpret it as part of this angle brace, then it will give syntax error. So the escape characters that you have to use for ampersand is ampersand AMP semicolon, then GT semicolon for greater than, then ampersand less than, this is for less than symbol. Then if you want to have quotation, then you have to say quote, I should not use this, sorry, I used colon, it should have been ampersand. It's not dollar, this is ampersand, ampersand quote. Suppose if you want to use apostrophe, again APOS semicolon. So these are all the characters that you can, if you want to use apostrophe as part of data or any part in the XML, you should use only this. Then only the XML will be treated as a legal and valid XML. So in this session, we have seen the need for XML files, we have seen the nodes, we have seen the container nodes, we have seen the attributes of the XML file, we have seen the escape characters in the XML file. So and XML files are used to have the configuration for the programs, used to have some data locations, and then transmit data from one program to the other, and you can validate the XML by opening it through browser. With this, we will stop this session over here. Thank you.